don't be afraid. There's nuances to AI. There are different suppliers of AI technology you can use and services. I would recommend use OpenAI, ChatGPT. Don't overuse it. Don't put your internal confidential documents into ChatGPT.
Right.
But you can still use it for daily tasks, writing your text, helping you understanding customer requests and stuff like that.
There was actually a really interesting study about that.
Tell me.
How over-reliance, and they were showing that they had all the participants do an assessment, saw how they performed, then they had them use ChatGPT, and what they actually found were that the high performers without ChatGPT, their accuracy and their speed increased by like 7-10%, and the low performers, their accuracy and speed increased by like 50%. But what they found, which is insane, it really kind of closes the gap, which is a good or bad thing depending how you look at it. And what they also found is that they had them continue using ChatGPT for a while, and they saw a dip for both high and low performers in their performance after a certain amount of time relying on ChatGPT. It would actually go up, and then it just went down because they were relying on it strictly. But then it kind of went a little back up and plateaued, but never really hit that top productivity again. So it was just an interesting trend kind of a statistic that I read in a paper that kind of showed that when you first use it, because they only wanted candidates that had never used it. So when you first use it, you have insane productivity increases. Then you actually go below your normal productivity at some point because you became over-reliant. And then once you realized you were underperforming even then, you kind of went up a little bit and plateaued, but never really went back to that peak. So it was just an interesting kind of paper.
Did they figure out what was the reason behind this? Or if there was a clear tipping point when it happened?
It was after about an hour to 2 hours of using it continuously.
Oh, interesting.
So it was quickly very adaptive. People were very adaptive, but they noticed they were underperforming. And so they started not relying on it 100%.
This reminds me of the first week in November 2022 when ChatGPT got released. I was sitting there like 3 a.m. in the night. I was like, oh, this is so interesting. It's basically someone you can talk to about any topic you want, and it gives you interesting insights. But after a while, I was like, yeah, okay, the novelty was wearing off. I was like, okay, it's a daily tool. It's like using Slack. I don't know. It's like the other tools I'm using.
Right.
It's more or less a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I went through the same phase, like, oh, this is so great. I'm using it for anything. I remember listening to the All In podcast where I think he said like, I replaced Google with ChatGPT as my search engine. I was like, this is a bit too much. So yeah, maybe I went through the same. I had a productivity boost and then I was over-relying on it. Now I'm somewhere in the middle, like, okay, this is making me better. I'm maybe not reaching the peaks from the past, but I'm still better than without it.